Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Amberdata podcast. I'm Izzy Henderson, and I'm really excited to be joined today by our Director of Derivatives, Greg Magadini. And we're going to talk about a new product offering that we have. So we have just released crypto ETF and traditional stock options data. Greg, thank you for joining once again.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here. Excited to talk about all this stuff, the crypto related equities, as well as the new ETF and ETF options. Good stuff.
Awesome. So, a little bit more on that. What is crypto TradFi data and what are we offering?
Yeah, absolutely. So historically, the options market has been really contained to offshore venues such as Deribit, OKEx, Bybit. We've recently seen DeFi protocols such as Derive launch options. But until then, most of the US market has been locked out. When we got the spot ETF approval in January of 2024, the hope was to get ETF options listed, and we just got those about 2 weeks ago. So now Amberdata has been collecting the spot ETF options data. So this is IBIT options data, as well as a few other ETFs with options such as BITO, BitX, ETH, so those markets are now included in our data sets. We've created sort of the same type of features that a lot of our customers are used to, but for now, these venues are also included in that.
And what's the most important metric now that we're offering for this?
Yeah, so I mean, the most important is a little bit subjective, but the things that I like personally are the volatility surfaces. So we have both, option chain snapshots that show essentially every instrument with mark vol, bid vol, ask vol, including all the Greeks. Then we've rolled up those option chains into delta surfaces with active maturities. We call them floating maturities. So if something expires on the 13th of December, while we have the delta surface for this 13th of December, then we roll up that delta surface into a constant maturity delta surface. So we can see consistent 5 DTE delta surface, consistent 20 DTE delta surface, so on and so forth. That makes backtesting and historical analysis a lot easier when you're dealing with options. One of the other instruments that we include is Coinbase and Coinbase options. We have that data back to 2021. So that's very exciting. You can see the consistent delta surface going back to 2021. You can look at the trade data going back to 2021 when they essentially did their IPO, or you can look at the option chain snapshots in periodic intervals of 30 minutes going back to 2021. Another thing that we've spent a lot of time figuring out is the trade data with the associated Greeks and the pre-order book state. So for every trade, we call this decorated trades. We take times and sales data. We ensure to calculate the implied vol of where that contract actually traded in vol terms as well as price terms. And then we could see right before that trade where was the best bid and the best ask, best bid vol, best ask vol, the sizes, so on and so forth. So this gives us a lot of relevant details for each individual trade. So if someone is looking to kind of gauge the liquidity of a market or how often does the market trade between bid and the ask, things like that, now you have all that information. And then from there, we can roll that up into essentially the most traded instrument with the VWAP IV or the volume weighted average price in vol terms as well as dollar terms for a specific instrument on a specific day. That gets very useful and shows us really a lot of relevant details of where things are actually clearing.
And what are some interesting trends we're seeing for these?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the most interesting trends is really going to be around IBIT. So there's been a lot of speculation around how are investors going to digest IBIT. Are we going to get sort of the retail Wall Street bet crowd paying up for volatility on Bitcoin that now they can finally do that? Or are we going to get sort of the institutional flows of buying IBIT, selling covered calls, and owning puts? That's kind of the flows that we see on indices. So far, what we've noticed is that if we compare volatility of the Deribit surface versus the IBIT surface, IBIT does carry a little bit of a vol premium, about 1 to 2 points, which is really surprising because theoretically, Deribit, which are future options, there's a little bit more volatility to the futures contract because not only do you get the spot move, but you also get the basis move on top of it. So when markets rally like they are right now, not only does the spot move higher, the basis expands as well, which is actually an extra source of volatility on the underlying. So for that to trade at lower vol to IBIT, even though it's just 2 points, really what we're thinking is there's probably about 4 or 5 points of vol edge right there. That's a really interesting way to look at the market and some sort of trend that probably won't last and offers some opportunity right now.
Amberdata offers this in the Amberdata Derivatives app and in our API. So how can investors leverage this TradFi data along with our CeFi and DeFi offerings?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of our endpoints for traditional finance or crypto related equities is in the same format as our other API endpoints. So, the way that you analyze Deribit, volatility surfaces, and trade data is almost one for one the way you would analyze IBIT, volatility surface, and trade data. Same thing extends out to our DeFi protocols. So, right now we cover Derive or what used to be called Lyra, which is the biggest DeFi options exchange in the market. They're built on optimism. And so we can see where their markets are trading, where their vols are quoted. And it's a very interesting way to look at these three venues side by side. You could see, okay, DeFi options are priced here, CeFi or centralized finance options are priced here, and equivalent TradFi or traditional finance options are priced here. So analyzing all three venues in one place provides a really interesting angle to trade these markets and essentially take positions where there's edge on any different venue.
I really love this because, we're truly giving a view into the entire crypto options economy that we have.
Mhm.
So Greg, thank you so much for hopping on just to tell us a little bit more about this. Anyone listening can analyze crypto-focused stocks and ETFs along with our CeFi and DeFi markets in Amberdata Derivatives app. It's one seamless experience. It also, our new TradFi product does coexist with our existing Amberdata Derivatives functionality. It's in the same familiar data format. It's clean and reliable volatility data like it's always been. Thank you, Greg.
Absolutely. Thank you.